Dear students, I hope you're doing great. Welcome back to our class number 3. In today's class, we're gonna be learning about the simple present tense. So let's get started. You might be wondering, what is the simple present tense? Well, the simple present tense, it's a verb tense with one main use. We use the simple present tense when we speak about something in the present or when it happens regularly. So it could be a habit, it could be a practice that we tend to do or that we are used to do every day or every week or every month. Okay? Now we have WH questions. We're gonna be using them a lot in the simple present. So I want to explain it to you before we go into structure, into more details about the simple present tense. Just as a recap, WH questions are used to ask about something, but those WH questions are specifically used to get more details about something. Okay? So we have who that is used to ask about a person. Who is that? Who did you invite to your party? And then we have what. What is used to ask about a thing. What is your favorite movie, for example? Don't focus on the second example because the second example is the past tense, and we are not gonna be seeing that tense or that verb tense in this course. So you can just omit that and you can just use the first example as the example that you can practice with. Where is used to ask about a place. Where do you live? When is used to ask about a time. When does the class start? Why is used to ask about a reason. Why do you like reading so much? Or why do you like coffee, for example? Which is used to ask about a choice. Which do you prefer, chicken or steak? Whose is used to ask about a possession. Whose book is this? So it means de quién es este libro in Spanish, because I know that might be a little bit confusing. And then we have how is used to ask about a method or way. How do you turn on this computer? Then in the simple present tense, we're gonna be using something that is completely new, that the verb to be does not have. That is do or and does. What are they? They are auxiliaries of the verb. We don't have them in Spanish, so don't try to translate do or does to Spanish because we don't have them. And what they do is that they help the verb to do meanings so that you can explain something that you're going to say. And we have a specific ones for each pronoun. So for I, we use do. For he, she, or it, we use does. For you, we, and they, we use do. So remember that for some of them, we use plural. Do is used for the plural pronouns. As you can see, the plural pronouns are you, we, and they, but also I. And the singular pronouns are he, she, or it. So just as a recap, do and does help the verb. Don't try to translate it as I said because they do not exist in Spanish, but we're gonna be using them a lot in order to make negative sentences, WH questions, and yes and no questions. So you need to remember which do or which conjugation in this case goes with which pronoun. For example, do with which pronoun goes and does with which pronoun goes. So remember that I goes with do, he, she, or it goes with does, and you, we, and they go with do. And we have also some examples below the image of the conjugation that it says, I do my homework. You do the dishes. We do the laundry. They do the housework. And then with does, we have the same. He does like fries. She does the housework. It does snow every winter. Lisa does her nails. ¿Qué significa esto en español? Por ejemplo, I do my homework. Yo hago mi trabajo. O en dos, he does like fries. A él le gustan las papas. O a él sí le gustan las papas in Spanish, so that you can have an idea, okay? With that being said, remember that the simple present tense is used to describe habits, unchanging situations, general truths, and fixed arrangements. And we have different structures depending on what we need to communicate. For example, positive on the left image. If you want to acknowledge something and you want to confirm something, we're gonna use the positive structure. That follows the same. Um, the following structure, I'm sorry. So it's going to say subject, or it's going to follow a subject plus a verb in SP. SP means simple present plus the complement. So we have an example. I used the color so that you can identify which is the subject, which is the verb, and which is the complement if you don't find it, or if you could find it difficult to know which was the subject or which was the verb, so you can use the colors as a reference, okay? So it goes, I is the subject, the verb in simple present here is like, and the complement is coffee. And that in Spanish will be a mí me gusta el café. So that you can, relate a little bit those phrases or those sentences with Spanish as well. But I do recommend that you don't try to translate everything and then you just try to understand it by itself in English. And then we have negative. So remember that a negative is gonna be used to negate something so that we can communicate that we are not like that we do not like something. Okay, so we have follow a structure that is a subject plus do or does that we already saw them. They are auxiliaries of the verb plus not that is gonna be expressing the negation or the negative part plus the verb in simple present plus the complement. So we have an example. I do not like hamburgers. A mí no me gustan las hamburguesas. So we use do and does as auxiliaries of the verb. You can see them here. So we're going to use them to help the verb and to help us to communicate that we don't like hamburgers. I say don't because it's a contraction of do not. But if you want to use do not, it's okay. It's super fine. And then we have questions. These questions, if you're taking notes, please be careful because those questions are called yes and no questions. So why yes and no questions? Because as you can see in the example, they ask something very fast. But we're going to see first the structure and then I'm going to explain this. So the yes, no questions follow a structure that we have do and does or do or does plus a subject plus the verb in simple present plus the complement. So we have the example. Do you like to dance? Do represents the do. You, the subject, like the verb in simple present, and to dance the complement. ¿Te gusta bailar? So you will always answer, yes, I do, or no, I do not. Always. So please have that in mind. Sí, sí me gusta, or no, no me gusta. If you like to dance, so you say, yes, I do. But if you do not like to dance, you say, no, I don't, or no, I do not. Okay? Then we have the WH questions that we previously saw them so that you can have them in mind. It's going to follow a structure of WH question plus a verb in simple present plus a complement. So we have an example here that it's going to say, what is your favorite food? So what is the WH question? Is the verb that we're using in simple present and the complement will be your favorite food. In Spanish, that question means, ¿cuál es tu comida favorita? Okay, so you can answer those WH questions as I previously mentioned when we were seeing them. They are used to get more details about something instead or on the opposite of the yes and no questions. The yes and no questions, they want just to know if you like, if you do something, and they are very fast. But if you want to get more into detail so that you can know more about a specific topic, you're going to use WH questions. Why? Because you need to give an extensive or a more complex answer. Okay? So in Spanish, por ejemplo, si le preguntan cuál es su comida favorita, usted tiene que decir mi comida favorita es. Entonces la respuesta es más compleja, más completa. Pero en una pregunta de yes or no question en inglés es como en español, ¿a usted le gusta bailar? Entonces usted puede contestar, sí, sí me gusta bailar. O no, no me gusta bailar. Entonces ven, las yes or no questions son más rápidas que las WH questions. Porque las WH questions se usan para que usted pueda obtener más detalles. And lastly, but not least, we have WH questions in negative. So we're going to make a negation. So we have a very large structure here, but don't be afraid. It's pretty easy. It just seems very large, but you will see that it's very easy. So we follow a WH question plus do or does plus not plus subject plus verb in simple present plus complement. So in the example, we have, why don't you like pizza? ¿Por qué no le gusta la pizza? Tenemos una pregunta en negativo. Ya sabemos algo de la persona, so we are just, you know, looking into more details. Queremos saber más detalles de por qué no le gusta la pizza. So you give a very or a larger response than you will do with a yes or no question. So you will explain yourself on why you don't like pizza. You can say, for example, I don't like pizza because I don't like cheese or because it has cheese. No me gusta la pizza porque tiene queso. Okay? So those will be all the structures that we can have in the simple present tense. I know there are a lot, so please, um, take notes, practice them in a notebook or in your computers so that you can remember their structures and you can start creating sentences. You can also use examples as a reference. And then we have a very important rule. Third person in singular. What does that mean? That all the singular pronouns, when we use singular pronouns, we need to add an S to the verb in simple present tense. So in Spanish, esta regla se refiere a que cuando tenemos un pronombre singular, todos los verbos que usemos con ese pronombre singular tienen que ir acompañados de una S. ¿Por qué? Porque son singulares. Es una regla de inglés, ¿ok? So remember all the singular pronouns that are he, she, or it. Those pronouns, when we use them in simple present, you need to add an S to the verbs. As you can see in the examples, he speaks English. She speaks English. Amit speaks English. Instead of the plural pronouns, they speak without S English. We speak without S English. Amit and Sumit, why we don't use the S there? Because in Spanish we will say ellos. In English, they, so it's plural. Amit and Sumit speak English, okay? There is an exception that you need to know. For example, if we use he does like English, you can use it. And this is to emphasize something. No es necesario añadir el does ahí, pero en inglés se utiliza de que se añada de vez en cuando. ¿Por qué? Porque es para confirmar. como en español se diría sí. A él sí le gusta el inglés. ¿Ven que hay un doble sí? It's the same in English. When we use yes, he does like English. You see, I'm not adding an S on the verb. Why? Because the does already has it. So in Spanish, cuando añadimos un does, or el auxiliar del verbo singular o de los pronombres singulares, no tenemos que añadir una S al verbo. ¿Por qué? Porque el does ya lleva la S que el verbo necesita. Entonces, por ejemplo, si usamos a él sí le gusta el inglés, he does like English, you see, you can hear it. I'm not adding an S on the verb. But if I say he likes English without the does, I need to add the S. But if you use the does, it's just the does. We don't add an S on the verb. He does like English. Okay, so keep in mind those rules. And just to finish here, as a recap, remember that is, am, and are the verbs that we saw in the verb to be, in the class of the verb to be. Now we're seeing simple present tense that we can use all the other verbs that we have in English. So as a recap, we have the third person rule or third person singular rule, that is to add an S to the singular pronouns. As you can see, he teaches English. But with the other ones, plural ones, and I, we don't add an S. And now I know that I spoke too much. Probably it seemed a little bit difficult, so it's time to go to practice so that you can relax yourselves and see that it's not that difficult as it seems. Please go to Google Classroom and look for the class number 3 so that you can look and read the instructions that we have for today's class, and you can start doing all the assignments that we have for today so that you can upload them, sorry, before 9 p.m. If you have any doubt or question, don't hesitate in reach out to me via WhatsApp, or you can send me a text and I'll be more than glad to help you. See you in the next class.